Lyons site. Services for the blind and visually impaired. Graphic of a lion's head in black and white on a gray background. Hi there, this is Keenan Fry from Lyons Site Services, and this is a pretty cool thing that I've built. It's a little room. But before we get into the details about the little room, I want to talk about the people who helped me build this. I know I just said I built it, but realistically I didn't build it. I cut out the boards and did the stuff for the foam pads and, did some work on this. But the people who really deserve a shout out are the folks over at Custom Metal. So I want to start off by saying big thank you to Ed and Gerard. No one calls Gerard Gerard, they all call him G. So Ed and G over at Custom Metal on 616 Walter Meyer over in Belmont, California. And then to Ed's son, Cade, who helped out as well with the powder coating. Cade, thanks for helping me spray paint this and get it sealed and all that. Ed, thanks for doing the welding, the TIG, and thanks for making that special set of nuts. And G, thank you for helping me design the frame and help me make the thing modular. Really appreciate it. So with that said, let's get into it. For starters, this is an aluminum frame, and I'm going to kind of show you how it works. These are pool noodles that I got from Leslie Pool Supply. Shout out to Nita, the register worker over at Leslie Pool Supply over in San Carlos. She was very helpful in me getting the right pool noodles. But as you can see right here, this is the frame. You see those little silver struts, those are the locking nuts that hold the frame together. The pool noodle goes over the frame so that the student is protected from this. So we're going to just kind of pull one of these off. And what I did was I just sliced the noodle in half, put some black duct tape around it to make it a same consistent black as the rest of the frame. It's really important to make everything black when you're making a little room, especially when you're working with students who have CVI. I've got a school site where there's about 8 students who are going to use this. Some of them have CVI, some of them don't, but will nonetheless benefit from having a little room as a sensory area for them to basically practice a combination of visual skills, tactile skills, visually guided reach, things of that nature. But let's talk about the frame itself. So if I pull these guys off, these pool noodles, you'll see that there's 2 legs in the front. And I'm going to adjust the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. And this frame is designed to cantilever off. And so this is the cantilever, right? It extends out past the table. So there's a table down here. We put non-slip fabric that I got from Joann's Fabrics. It's the stuff that you use on the bottom of pajamas. And so what we did, put the fabric down, and then we bolted the entire frame on top of the table. So when the student works, they have this work area here. But it's important that as the student works on this table space, that the frame extends around them. These students are in wheelchairs, and so having the frame extend out and be extra wide is very important. Now, one of the features of this little room that we designed is that it's modular, which means all the parts come off. And that's good for a couple of reasons. Here's the big cross beam that supports the front. So for starters, you can lift this top piece off. You can see that it's a flap. This is just a trifold board that we cut up. I put a little bit of duct tape on this to give it a lip so that it slips underneath the slice in the pool noodle and kind of slots down. But if you need to, you can lift this up and let in a little bit more light. So I'm going to take the top pad off. And this is all done with 3/4 inch Velcro going down the middle and going down the back end. And I'm going to just take a couple of these panels off, and then we'll cut to the frame itself. These ones right here cover the sides and protect the student from the sides. All right, show you the rest of the frame in just a second. Okay, so now you can kind of see better the frame. This is the whole side panel right here, and there was a cardboard trifold board, folds. Again, the whole thing is that this is modular. So the trifold board, the way this works is they mount via Velcro on the inside. So this frame that extends out here is facing outside. The student's really not going to bother with this frame. It's not going to interrupt them. But this crossbeam is really useful up top. And what the crossbeam does is it allows us to put top foam piece on and also take it off if necessary. So one of the things that's been going on with one of my students is they have a complex of both a seizure disorder and CVI. And so that makes it obviously very difficult to treat the CVI because CVI is treated through exposure to light. And obviously if they have a seizure disorder, they're sensitive to light. So how you balance those is very difficult. What the experiment is with this setup is that because it's modular, you can take the top panel off and let in light from the top. And that's really useful because the sides remain fixed. And these sides, because they remain fixed, it blocks out any side distractions, but overhead lighting can still get in. And that's really useful because if your student is acclimated to their environment, their overhead lighting, suddenly putting them in a dark space or suddenly bringing them out of a dark space into a light space could possibly trigger a seizure. So what we wanted to do when we made this was make it modular so you could take the panels on and off and gradually acclimate the student to the preferred lighting situation so that the setting would be most beneficial to their learning but could be over time something that they acclimate to. So that's one of the features of this design is that you can take the panels off and put them on as needed, and that was one of the big emphasis. The other addition to the panel system is that because they're made out of trifold board, you can just poke a hole in it and run your cables through it. So it's really not an issue of running cables if you want to mount a screen to the back of this. There's a couple of other things that play into this as well. I really wanted the boards to be set up where it could be a sealed box if necessary, but I have a feeling that other service providers are going to be using this, and to make it accessible to them, I wanted it to be set up so that you could put boards on that are either the full panel size and cover the full wall, or you can put partial boards on. And if you put a partial board on here, you still have room to reach your hand in. And I think that that's going to be really interesting because some of these students need hand under hand and hand over hand support. Hand under hand is preferable, but in a few cases hand over hand. And so having the ability to reach into the box and work with the student from a hand under hand perspective is desirable. It facilitates them engaging with the realia that you're presenting them. One of the things that I'm going to be using this for is the CVI Connect app. I'm excited to try that out. One of the advantages of having this cross beam here and these side beams is that I can put a mounting bracket on here. And so I can drill additional holes into here, which I plan on doing, and put a plate on here. And then you can mount an iPad to this. This video really isn't about CVI Connect, but the app offers a feature that I'm interested in, which is a heat map feature that allows you to track the eye gaze of the student. And so what I'm interested in is if I can mount the iPad into this little room and then track the student's eye gaze across the iPad, that will give me an idea of where it is they're looking at things. I think that that tool will probably be useful with this setup. I'm hoping that it is. You know, in another video I'll do like a honest review of the CVI Connect app. That's if I can get access to it. It'll be mounted to something that's stable in a dark sort of contained environment, and that will probably be the prime environment to just see how well the features of the app work. Even if the CVI app doesn't work, I have some curriculum that I can implement with my student using this space. There's some Velcro on top of here that's been glued down with welding cement, which binds fabric to metal. And so the Velcro is pretty much anchored down, so when you peel the boards off, it doesn't pull the Velcro with it. yeah, so I guess I'm going to take the rest of the boards off and just show you the frame as it is. Okay, so this is the top of the frame. You can see kind of the goopy stuff. That's the welding cement. There's 3 beams, 1, 2, 3 all the way in the back. You can kind of see the rest of the A-frame and stuff. Really quick, want to shout out another thank you to Ed and Gerard for giving me these screws. So these are really special screws. You can't get these at Home Depot. You got to go to a special catalog and order them. The McMaster car catalog number 123. What this actually is called is a flanged bolt and serrated nut. It reduces a 4-part bolt washer nut system down into a 2-part flange bolt and serrated nut system. Instead, the washers are built into the actual head of the bolt and into the head of the nut, and it makes the binding system more secure. That makes the frame stronger and more stable and therefore more safe for the student. So again, like, big shout out to Ed, Gerard, and Cade. G. I know I keep calling you Gerard, but thank you, G. Ed, you too. They made all of this possible. And I'm really grateful for having access to the shop over at 616 Walter Meyer. I'm going to keep saying that. So we're going to continue with the tour. I'm going to kind of show you some of the other features of this. There's a few other holes that are drilled into this. So these additional holes allow me to mount other parts onto here. That's something I want to try out. These are the special nuts and screws that Ed made. He had some threaded rod and he TIG welded some spare nuts to the threaded rod and made his own custom screws that fit the size of the table. So they cover this thickness right here. I think this is a really nice kind of, like, I don't know if it's Rubbermaid or one of the other companies that makes these tables. I got it from the school site, and the teacher was very nice and was kind enough to let me have the table. So thank you to the teacher. Not going to say names, it's supposed to remain anonymous, but thank you to the teacher. Thank you for the support in your classroom. And I'll show you the back, and I'll give you the dimensions of the whole thing. This is the back end of it. You see our boat in the background. That's the speedboat. That's the '89 Sea Ray I grew up driving out in Lake Shasta. But yeah, you can kind of just see the frame, and you know, it's a pretty simple design. Nothing too fancy. You got 1, 2 big goofy pool noodles for the front, and then the cross beam, and then the 2 side arms. So 5 poodle noodles, and then the 4 foam boards for the frame, and that's kind of it. And it's bolted into the table. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so what we now have is the tablet set up in the little room. I've taken one of the side panels off, and I can pull the cloth back. This is really good if you need to manipulate an object with the student. You can use this side cloth right here. iPad goes over there. Right now it's just using the stand that comes with the case itself, but what I'd actually like to do is have a beam going down the center of this and then be able to bolt that to different heights along the beam, raising and lowering it. And they make these arms that are adjustable, and so what I have to do is get the measurements from one of those adjustable arms and then make a special pole. And that's kind of like maybe the last add-on would be adding a pole to it. And what I would do is just take the back panel off and get a pole arm welded onto it. But effectively what this would do with the CVI Connect app is you'd have it center mounted, and then you could have the kid look at the position of the screen that they're most comfortable with. They prefer visually targeting certain regions and certain areas of the iPad because it aligns with the visual field that they are most capable of receiving sensory input from. CVI is kind of complicated, but what I'm trying to do is kind of like piece together sensory room and have everything set up the way it needs to be so that I can begin to more accurately assess my students' needs. And like I said, there's like 8 different students at this one site that'll benefit from this. So it's really like a tool that a lot of other folks will use, at least I hope they do. And that's basically it. The next one that I build will definitely have the cross beam in the back already installed in it. So this is a case for a iPad or tablet device, doesn't really matter which tablet. And what we're looking at is this back plate, which has some mounting holes cut into the plate. So what I want to illustrate to you is that the cross beam that I've been talking about that I want to add to the little room is just a beam that hangs from the frame. Then a secondary plate needs to be welded to that beam, and that will create the male coupler that then meet a female coupler, which would bind into this tablet case, or for example this tablet case, or in this case the student has a mounting arm that attaches to their chair, and the mounting arm is attached to its own bracket plate. So what I'm trying to illustrate is that the mounting arm at the back of the little room is one of the more important and also complicated pieces, because it has to have a universal adapter, because this is what enables the iPad to be held in a desirable position to capture the student's preferred field of vision. Remember that CVI usually results in a limited visual field. So the student is going to have a preferred visual field that they're going to operate out of in order to determine how the CVI is affecting their functional vision. You have to reduce the variable of positioning. So you have to determine where the student's preferred visual field is, and then have the means to adapt the placement of the device into that field. The little room box reduces environmental noise and environmental variables, and then the mounting arm is what reduces the variable of positioning. They're going to be using an increased range of their visual faculty because the variables affecting their functional vision have been reduced. Outside of that environment, they're not really going to use their vision as effectively. However, building up their visual tolerance and ocular motor control and their receptiveness to visual complexity, the ability to resolve those issues in a controlled environment will later on manifest in an uncontrolled environment like a regular classroom or home environment. It's kind of like working out on a Smith machine where the weight is on a fixed track, and then later on you perform the deadlift with a free weight. Once you're performing that weightlifting activity off of the fixed track machine, you're using your own stabilizer muscles to not only perform the lift but to also hold yourself into position. And so what we're trying to do is create an isolated environment so that that student can build those skills, those visual control skills, and then transfer it into an uncontrolled environment gradually. I appreciate you guys sticking with me on this journey through this goofy box that I've made. I had a friend of mine tell me that this is kind of like a glorified puppet show box, which is actually kind of painfully accurate. It's a glorified puppet show booth. You know, you got the curtain and everything on the side. But I hope that this kind of gives you some ideas on how to make a little room. Obviously, if you don't have access to welding like I do, you can make a frame like this out of really cheap recycled wood. You can find ways to get recycled timber, cut it to size. I just like the aluminum frame because it's lighter, and the people who had a little room, they had to change classrooms, and as they changed classrooms, the little room they had broke. And I think that that's probably one of the difficult things, is that these things are kind of large, they're hard to store, and when you have to move, which happens from time to time, classrooms have to move, I think that they tend to break. So being able to disassemble it, take all the pieces off, I think makes it an attractive solution. With that said, you know, I'm ready to send this out on Friday, so I'm looking forward to dropping it off and implementing this in the next phase of my curriculum design. I'll also say that I'm not in any way linked to the CVI Connect app, and I'm not married to it. The only reason why I'm interested in the app is because it has a feature for the heat map. If you guys know another app that offers a visual heat map tracking, let me know, because I'd be interested in checking that out. I think that that's really the main feature that I'm looking for in a CVI app, is being able to track eye gaze. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a CVI app. It could just be an app that tracks eye gaze and is able to track that data. That's really what I'm looking for. So if you know somebody who makes something like that, and if there's another way to go about it, let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate that. Yeah, with that, I guess that's it. I'm Keenan Fry. This is Lyons Site Services, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Custom Metal MFG 616 Waltemeyer in Belmont, California. Great Yelp reviews. Lyons Site. Regular updates on blind and visually impaired tutorials will be available for all kinds of topics. Thanks for watching.